The last time we talked was about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
That's right.
And you've been going around trying to get those people involved. Who are those people you are trying to get involved?
Those people are my good friends and relatives on the Oneida and Menominee reservations. And we've also reached out to the Stockbridge people and the Potawatomis as of this week. So we're just kind of scurrying around to various reservations, various communities and villages, reaching out to Native people who are voting populations in this territory.
So basically, what's your main message?
My personal main message is to engage people in the electoral process, to persuade them that civic participation is an essential right that we have as citizens of this territory. I'm particularly interested in getting veterans, elders, young people who are of just becoming of voting age, as well as the disenfranchised. And I include those people as homeless populations, people who are struggling in temporary shelters, those people who are not showing up on the voting rolls, those people who are probably not going to be counted as voting constituencies. For whatever reason. Those are the people that I'm trying to reach in this electoral process.
And how are you going about that?
We do community forums. We set up, engagements at youth centers, at tribal colleges, at women's refuge centers, at elderly meal service locations, at libraries, at any number of sites within the tribal communities where we will locate people who want to know more about the voting process and want to feel as though they are educated enough that they know how to maneuver at the polling stations. So
you're basically wanting to get everybody involved.
Absolutely. No question.
You're focusing on Native people, but anybody who wants to become involved and wants to vote, whether it's their first time or maybe their 101st time.
Absolutely. And really, Wisconsin Native Vote is nonpartisan, and that is, we do not endorse a particular candidate nor advise people towards a particular political party. But on the other hand, we also don't deliver our message to only tribal people. I include non-tribal people in my desire to get people to be involved in civic engagement. Get out there and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who you are. Just be a part of this process.
Well, why is that? Why is that so important? Why is that so important, basically? Okay, let's take your focus group. You're focusing on Native people. Why is it so important that Native people vote?
Here's why it's important to me, particularly as we are the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren of veterans that served in all of the military skirmishes in the history of this great nation. Those veterans took it upon themselves, even as they were non-citizens, took it upon themselves to defend these homelands in this country. Even while they did that, they could not return to their home states and vote in U.S. elections. That is not right. So, as a result of their extreme sacrifice, we are now citizens of this country who have the right to vote. So to discourage that or to toss that off as something, I don't feel like voting, or voting is not for me, what is the point? I am not the kind of person who will waste my time at the polls. Well, that is disrespectful in my opinion. Those veterans who advocated for our citizenship expected us to participate as full citizens. And a part of that is showing up at the polls and determining who your leaders will be in the next election.
Now, you said one of the things that I heard you say was that we're not considered citizens, or we're not considered citizens of the United States. Well, who were you speaking of when you said that? Like those veterans who weren't even considered citizens?
Yes, the veterans declared that they would defend our homelands even before they were actual citizens of this country. It wasn't until 1924 that it was determined that they were U.S. citizens. And even then, 40 years later, finally, the states within this sacred union called the United States decided that each and every one of us had that right to vote. So even though in 1924 we were declared citizens of the state of, or within the states of the United States, it wasn't until 40 years later that each and every one of us could vote.
So you're basically saying that Native American soldiers, men and women, who fought and died were not considered citizens. World War I veterans.
That's exactly true.
Until 1924.
1924. And even then, you know, it was our relatives who said, you know what, I am not fighting for anyone's idea of who I should be as a citizen. I am fighting for our homelands. I am here defending our homelands. And so they had a different idea about what it meant to be a warrior. Now we realize that they were fighting on our behalf. And it, to me, once again, I feel, in my opinion, it's disrespectful to that sacrifice that they made to say, yeah, voting's not for me.
Now, I want to go back to that. I think a lot of our young people don't realize that their great-grandfathers, and in some cases great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers, were not considered citizens as Native American people. Now listen to this. As Native American people, they were not considered citizens. They were not considered even counted. But they went off to defend this country and all that it stood for. That's pretty wild when you think about that. And you're right. It is disrespectful not to, in a way we are, well, basically we are honoring them when we vote. Because that's what they fought for us. That's what they fought. So that we would have the right to choose. Now, how far have you traveled so far in the last, well, I think we saw each other, or we talked to each other about a month ago, right?
Yeah.
How far have you, I mean, you've gone all over Wisconsin, or pretty much most of Wisconsin?
Absolutely. Most concentrated in northeastern and southern Wisconsin.
Okay.
I've been, canvassing powwows and tribal celebrations such as the Oneida Big Apple Fest. That was great fun.
Mm-hmm.
But events that occur in tribal communities, most importantly, but also in urban communities too. For example, the Hunting Moon Powwow in Milwaukee. So it's been great fun. I mean, it's been extraordinarily inspiring that, Native people really do care about what's going on in the electoral process. They really do think about what they ought to be doing in terms of educating themselves about candidates and political stands and so on. So, yeah.
Have you ever run into any opposition, like any Native opposition? Say, that's not my election. That's a white man's election. I don't need to be involved in that.
For sure. There have been several times, at least 3 different occasions in which a tribal person has confronted me and said, you're taking up where the white man has left off. What are you doing? Representing this whole process that seeks to exclude us. Who do you think you are as an Indian woman telling we warriors that we have fought for a particular stand for this country? Who do you think you are? And my response, in essence, was, I think I know who I am. I think I know that what is right for us is to be included in this process, not excluded. And if you agree with the process of exclusion, then I think you have more problems than I do in terms of getting out the vote You know, if you're going to allow yourself to drink that Kool-Aid, then okay, have at it. I'll just go on and do what I need to do in terms of my own legacy set before me by my family.
Now that's pretty sad when you hear that, or when you hear that type of opposition.
Yeah.
The sad part about that is that's how we lose things. That's how things get taken away from us. And that's how we wonder what happened. Oh, how did this happen? How could this happen? Is when we don't participate and we don't educate ourselves. And granted, there are people out there, you know, they have a hard time educating themselves. Maybe they're lost. They are disenfranchised. They don't have a home. They don't have it. How do you get them to come along with you?
Well, I go to the basic, and that is, how are you feeling about the struggle that you have to engage in to feed your children, to ensure that they have proper education, to make sure that your family is safe, that you feel represented as a human being, as a man in this society? I go to those basics. And many times I will engage them in any one of those aspects, and they'll say to me, you know what, that ain't right. I should be a part of this. I should be represented. And then we talk about how we can be represented either by the electoral process or by about educating ourselves about the issues or about the candidates or about 2020, which is coming up. We can't, we cannot allow ourselves to be apathetic anymore. This current situation, this current political situation at the federal level has taught us one thing, that we missed our opportunity in 2016. That we did not show up thinking we did not matter. And you know what? It was true. We didn't matter. And now we have another opportunity to show ourselves that we can make a difference. And, as I've said before, and my cohorts will, wring their hands knowing that I repeat myself, but if you don't use your vote, someone else will use it for you. If you don't capture your voice in this electoral process, someone else will use that voice. Someone else will vote for you.
And I guess one thing I want to say is that to those people is, wow, a little technical difficulty there. How does it feel to be treated like you don't matter? Because that's exactly what happened. You're being treated right now like you don't matter. Right?
I reject that. I know.
I'm saying that to those people who refused to vote or who didn't vote, who didn't want to show up, and who are upset now at the fact that things are going on and what's going on in this country. Yeah. We are totally, I don't want to say civil war or civil this, but where America used to be, okay, well, they won the election, let's work together. It's not like that anymore. To me, it doesn't seem like it's, well, they won. How do we get it back? Or should we, I'm going to say this. When the results came out, I was like, okay, well, we'll give this guy a shot. Get behind him, support him. But after a couple months, hearing what was coming out of his mouth, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And we're getting off track here. This is going to have to be edited out because I'm not going to be able to play this over the radio.
Yeah. Fuck Trump. Edit that.
Yeah.